Okay, go.
Good morning, Elliot Slosser, E-L-L-I-O-T-S-L-O-S-A-R, here on behalf of the plaintiff, Jackie Wilson, from the law firm of Lobey & Lobey. Along with me is Flint Taylor, F-L-I-N-T.
Yeah, hi, Flint Taylor from the People's Law Office. That's F-L-I-N-T-T-A-Y-L-O-R.
39 years ago, Jackie Wilson was tortured and framed for crimes he did not commit. That torture was done under the behest of Commander Jon Burge and former State's Attorney Larry Hyman, and in the presence of a court reporter, Michael Hartman, who sat by and read the Sunday paper as Jackie and Andrew Wilson were being tortured into providing statements that would land them in prison for a collective 7 decades of their lives. The criminal justice system failed Andrew and Jackie Wilson. Jackie is now recognized to be an innocent man after fighting his wrongful conviction for 39 years of his life. As you'll hear, Jackie Wilson almost died in prison before Judge Oates granted him a new trial. When Jackie Wilson was taken out of Menard Correctional Center in 2018, he was in a wheelchair and was incapable of walking from the cell house to a legal visit. Judge Oates, through so much courage, overturned Jackie Wilson's wrongful conviction and suppressed the tortured confession that should have never been admitted as evidence in 1983 and again in 1989. What Judge Oates did not know, and what we did not know, was that members of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, Nicholas Tratinko in particular, were continuing to withhold exculpatory evidence to frame Jackie Wilson for a third time at his 2020 retrial. Through incredible investigative efforts by John Conroy and our team, we unraveled a sordid, illicit relationship between a sitting Cook County State's Attorney and an international fugitive who had been deported from America in 1990 because he committed so many crimes. Little did we know that a state's attorney used that fugitive, William Coleman, to fabricate a false statement in 1989 and secure Jackie's second wrongful conviction. Before Jackie's conviction was even final, Tratinko flew to Europe and became the godfather to the informant's trial. What's important is that Tratinko didn't go over there as a gesture of goodwill. Although we didn't get to closing arguments at Jackie Wilson's retrial, Tratinko flew to Europe to become the godfather as part of the conspiracy to save Jon Burge from being terminated by the city of Chicago. Tratinko's baptismal trip, January 5th, 1992. 4 weeks later, Kunkel and Tratinko were going to try to use Coleman to lie in order to save Jon Burge from the torturous allegations that he used a radiator to burn Andrew Wilson into giving a statement. The conspiracy that we've laid out in the lawsuit that was filed earlier today implicates everyone from a court reporter to Mayor Daley, state's attorneys, police officers, And tragically, the systemic misconduct that almost cost Jackie Wilson his life. It definitely cost him 70% of his life. But the misconduct that almost led Jackie to die in prison for crimes he did not commit would have never unraveled but for the courageous efforts of civil rights attorney Flint Taylor, investigators like John Conroy, who have been fighting since the 1980s to expose the serious police and prosecutorial misconduct that caused hundreds of people to be tortured into statements and convicted of crimes that they did not commit. Tragically, what we found out over the past 8 months since Jackie Wilson was exonerated was that members of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office continue to withhold exculpatory evidence. Members of Kim Fox's office tried to frame Jackie Wilson for a third wrongful conviction. Members of those office, Mr. Horvath, Mr. Feynman, continue to be employed by a prosecutor who protests around the country that she is progressive and cares about wrongful convictions. Mr. Horvath, Mr. Tretingo, Mr. Feynman, and the State's Attorney's Office as an institution is subject to a criminal investigation and prosecution which has played out over the past 8 months. This era of systemic police and prosecutorial misconduct is not over. And we call upon State's Attorney Fox to live up to her promises to people in the community, her promises to care about torture cases, to care about the wrongfully convicted. If she cared, she would have fired Mr. Horvath on October 2nd, 2020, when the special prosecutor revealed that he attempted successfully to withhold exculpatory evidence at Jackie Wilson's third trial. State's Attorney Fox needs to answer the questions as to why Mr. Horvath is still responsible for handling wrongful conviction cases like certificates of innocence while he's being subject to a criminal investigation and potential prosecution.
Thank you. I stand here 40-some years after the torture of Jackie Wilson and his brother Andrew was first revealed. I stand here some 33 years after it was first revealed by an anonymous police whistleblower that in fact Jackie and Andrew Wilson were not the only people that were tortured by Jon Burge and his men at Area 2, but that it was a systemic, racist pattern and practice of police torture under the command of Jon Burge, with the knowledge, the express knowledge of then State's Attorney Richard J. Daley, and the command structure, the police superintendent on down of the Chicago Police Department. I want to show you a facsimile of the torture box that was used by Jon Burge on Andrew Wilson, on Jackie Wilson, on Anthony Holmes, on many other survivors of police torture at the hands of the Chicago Police Department. This is a generator which can generate electricity. There are wires attached to the generator. The wires have alligator clips attached to them. You then can, and they did, attach the clips to the various parts of a person's body who they were torturing. We're not going to crank this handle, but if I were to crank this handle in the way it was cranked when Andrew and his brother Jackie were tortured, then electric shock would go through these wires, and these wires would then torture the person who was being subjected to interrogation, like Jackie Wilson, Andrew Wilson, Anthony Holmes, and so many others were. I want to say that I was involved 35 years ago in helping to uncover the torture of the Wilson brothers. And now this case has come full circle with Jackie Wilson finally being exonerated, finally being found to be innocent by Judge Hooks. To be the prosecutor rather than the victim of police violence, to be the prosecutor of those who tortured him and so many others. We stand here in our federal lawsuit as special prosecutors. Yes, we haven't been appointed, but we are, on Jackie Wilson's behalf, and on behalf of so many others who have been tortured by Burge and his men, we stand as special prosecutors as well. So in conclusion, I want to say, I want to call on Lori Lightfoot, our mayor who had so many promises when she came to office before she was elected, who condemned the torture of black men, over 100 black men, when she was running for mayor, and later condemned it again. But we have to look at actions, not words. We have to look at the fact that Lori Lightfoot in her administration, unlike the Emanuel administration, and unlike the Daley administration, has refused to apologize for the actions of Jon Burge and the city of Chicago, has refused in court to admit a pattern and practice of torture that so many courts have found, including Judge Hooks, most recently in Jackie's case. So what we're saying to Lori Lightfoot is, step up and show us your actions rather than your words. Stop defending these cases, and particularly stop defending and do not defend and pay hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to fund private lawyers to deny the truth of what you and so many others have admitted to. That is that there was a pattern and practice of torture, that the seminal case was the Wilson case, and that the pattern and practice was unconstitutional and led to Jackie Wilson's torture. She must do that. If not, she is a fraud to all of us. She is a fraud in what she said about police torture. It's time for her to not only to speak, but to act. And we also say to the county, we also say to Kim Foxx, who has, in many respects, held herself out to and effected some important policy changes on behalf of African American mass incarcerated people. But this is an important case for her and the county as well. Are they, and is are they and Lori Lightfoot going to honor Judge Hooks' decision? Are they going to honor the decisions of the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Seventh Circuit? Or are they going to continue to send these lawyers from the county and the city into court to deny what the judges and what they themselves have admitted to? So we're calling them all out to do justice in this case and to save the taxpayers the money that they will have to spend to defend these indefensible cases, and instead to fully compensate the victims, the survivors of police torture, in particular Jackie Wilson. And not only to compensate Jackie Wilson, but to apologize to him, on behalf of the city for what happened to him over the last 38 years of his life. Nothing else will do, and we call on those in power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Again, a very few words. Psychological problems, difficulties in my life, trying to be acclimated to society. To say I'm perfect and understanding. I continue to try to move forward in my life. Okay, our family, what to do this. Not been easy. I say one thing to all of this, Judge Hook shows in his court that there can't be justice, that there are justices on the benches of Cook County. It's just that a lot of them don't want to do the right thing. Folks show with no uncertainty. He's a man of the law. They tried my case to the level of the law, and I thank God for that.
I want to speak briefly about the Chicago Torture Justice Center. As you all know, in 2015, thanks to an intergenerational and interracial movement, reparations were afforded to survivors of police torture. And one of the important aspects of that reparations was the creation of the Chicago Torture Justice Center. And men like Jackie Wilson, and women as well, can go to the Chicago Torture Justice Center and be able to talk about what happened to them, to get counseling about what happened to them, and otherwise to be able to get the support that they can't get in other places. The Chicago Torture Justice Center has sent a statement in support of Jackie Wilson and his case, and I want to read a short excerpt from it. It says, the Wilson case must serve as an urgent need for transparency and reforms in the Chicago Police Department, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and how judges examine cases of torture committed by police officers. We call for all torture survivors to be released from Illinois prisons, that the stripping of all torture police officers' pensions, to create at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, or to cease at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office from using tainted police testimony, to terminate all prosecutors from serving in supervisor positions that is expected of wrongdoing, and for judges cited with 2 or more wrongful convictions to be removed from all criminal-related cases. Let me say one final thing about reparations and the Chicago Torture Justice Center. That another important failure of the Lightfoot administration is that the promise of the Emanuel administration a memorial to those like Jackie Wilson and over 100 other torture survivors, a memorial to them here in the city of Chicago. That memorial has been designed, but the city to date and the Lightfoot administration refuses to put forward the funds necessary to have it constructed. And so the Lightfoot administration not only has to stop defending police torture, not only has to compensate the survivors such as Jackie, not only has to issue an apology to Jackie and to others, but also has to fund that memorial. And with that, we will take questions, correct?
Mr. Wilson, I mean, obviously this is such a critical day for you. You're on the flip side. I know that you use the word special prosecutor, but a system that has come after you decade after decade after decade, what does today feel like for you to be able to turn the page around and say, no, it's you we're going after now?
It's just the red flag that we are in a position to challenge them now because of what they've done. All I'm looking for is justice. All I have ever been looking for is justice. And I have a good legal team that's going to help me get it. And as long as my views and opinion on it is that I'm saying maybe they was wrong, I can't hold any hard feelings against a person who beat me up like a cancer. It's hard for me to deal with this. I should be mad. But if I allow myself to be mad, I'm self-destructive. Like a cancer. So I'm tired of doing that. I'm tired of healing. I'm trying that. I'm trying.
What does it mean to you to have all those years? I mean, this is really about your life, a huge chunk of your life that you spent behind bars. And today, I mean, obviously you'll never get that back, but just to know that there's this effort now, this push to at least acknowledge. What would you want the most of all, I guess, is my question. Do you want an apology? Do you want a settlement? What is most important to you?
First and foremost, all the money in the world is not going to change what has happened to me. If they keep it, you can't change it. It's done. And you knew it was wrong, but you did it anyway.
You know, I think, and a lot of times at trials, jurors ask the same question. How do we make this person whole?
Can you slide over? I'm
Sure.
sorry.
I think Jackie's case with what's happened, especially over the past 3 years, it really is an incredible turn of events. Jackie got a new trial. He's one of the only people in Cook County to ever get a recognizance bond in a murder case, especially one involving the murder of 2 white police officers. We went up on appeal, and the appellate court chastised the prosecutors for even pursuing this case any longer. But here we are in 2021, and the prosecutor who was involved in framing Jackie Wilson in 1989 is about to get prosecuted himself. That's never happened here before. In a county with hundreds of wrongful convictions, Flint's right, we're special prosecutors in this case. But while we're trying to get Jackie justice in a civil form, we hope to see the prosecutors involved in framing him as criminal defendants in the Cook County criminal courts. And that process has played out over the past 8 months. And while that process is going on and a special prosecutor is appointed and an investigation is taking place, Kim Fox has some tough decisions to make as to whether she's going to allow some individuals who are subject to that investigation and prosecution to be working at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. That would be a shocking decision for a progressive prosecutor to make. People who are under criminal investigation and potential indictment to be working in this county.
Let me add to that you all are the keepers of the truth. You all are the keepers of the truthful narrative. And that we have fought for over 40 years to establish the truth and to establish the narrative. And so we call on you as the media, as the keepers of the truth, to spread that truth and to understand where we stand today and understand what that truth is and what that narrative is. And now we've added the state's attorney's office. We've added this particular administration, the Lightfoot administration, to that narrative. And if they want to take themselves out of that narrative as part and parcel of the continuing conspiracy to cover up police torture, then they need to step forward. In this case, they need to step forward and do the right thing and stop defending the indefensible.
Can you, Mr. Wilson, tell us a little bit about what your life has been like the last few years?
Chaotic.
I'm sorry, Mr. Police Officer, you were in the middle.
Chaotic in a nutshell. 36 and a half years in prison, then have to be subjected to what you all are doing in society. You have to look at it from my perspective too. I was safer in prison than I am out here with you all in society. Y'all have armors, guns, killers, carjacking. The majority of them are protected from it. Now I'm out here, I'm in the thick of it and don't like it. This city we went from sugar to crack from the last time I was here. I just want to be left alone. Period. Become a reclusive. I don't want to be bothered. I'm tired. I simply want to be left alone. Is that asking for too much?
You did something during the news conference that I think we were all taken aback by, and that is putting the clip on your ear from that box.
It hurt. Get a chance. Click on this thing. I let you try it. And I had it on my ear. Very tender spot. No matter what they did back then at that time. And I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to cover. It's emotional for me.
I think we should conclude now. We're not going to let anybody put that on their ears, and we're not going to crank that because we're not torturers. We're not going to reenact what Jon Burge did. But we brought this box for you all to understand the reality of what happened to Andrew, and more importantly, what happened to Jackie when he was tortured in 1982. We thank you all for coming.
Who are you with, Mr. Wilson? Who are you, ma'am?
I'm Sandra Wilson, Jack's
Wife, okay. And wife during this entire time while he's been in prison, or?
No, we're like 2.5 years in our marriage.
And forgive me, but your brother's not here, so I'm just trying to clarify. Is he passed, or?
He's deceased. He died in prison.
He died when?
He died in prison.
He died in 2007.
November.
2007?
November.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, at least it didn't do a turn.
Yeah, I'm going to see you for that.